Hey, Shalom, Shalom. All praises honor and glory belong to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Makakodash. Double honors unto the elders and to the apostles of Great Stone, and salutations to the old elect. All right, the men that are pushing his word out in truth and in sincerity. This is the brother Yakal coming at you with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai. All right, and this one is just a update on the ongoing conflict between Iran and the US and Israel. All right. And this is really showing a prophecy unfolding. All right. This is prophecy unfolding right before our eyes, you know, and this is beautiful. All right. So the title of this video is Iran choose not to accept our terms, USVP Vance says after negotiations. All right. So pretty much, what America has been accustomed to for the last um, you know, 100 years, probably quite possibly or more, all right, is everyone pretty much laying down and roll over. All right, and not challenging war, you know. So it says Iran choose not to accept our terms, US VP Vance says after negotiation. Vice President J.D. Vance has said that the US and Iran failed to reach an agreement following lengthy peace talks in Pakistan. The delegation met in Islamabad, Pakistan during a temporary ceasefire. Vance said the US could not get to a situation where the Iranians were willing to accept our terms. All right, so it's really about what America wants, you know? It's really about what America wants. It's not about the interest of lives, all right? And there's a reason why I say the interest of lives. It's all about what, the elites of the so-called Edomites, and not so-called Edomites, of the so-called white race or the Edomites desire. Halting Iran's nuclear power capabilities had been a core goal that wasn't reached. Iran's foreign minister says the talks were intensive and called on Washington to refrain from excessive demands and unlawful requests. All right, so Iran is saying that, look, you guys are, pretty much ridiculous. So what is it that you're asking? You're asking us to do too much, and there's no middle ground. It's about what you desire. All right, so I can play this clip, and then I got a couple of precepts I can bring out, and hey, we can see where the spirit, take us. Yeah, and they're talking about red line. So it's like, hey, the only way that we're gonna um cease fire completely or land on a resolution is if you accept these things. All right. We don't give 2 cents about what you want and what you desire or anything like that. All right. All we care about is that, look, you don't um have the ability to produce nuclear weapon in any way, shape, or form. All right. You open up the Strait of Hormuz and you know, whatever other um desires they have. All right. That's all they care about. They don't care about anything else. You see? right? So that's all they want, that you should not be able to produce weapons in any way, shape, or form, and there's prophecy, that the Iranians aren't backing down, they stand in a firm ground. All right. This is Joel chapter 3, and I'm going to read from verse 9. It says, Proclaim me among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. All right. And this is who Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, you know, is the one that is putting the spirit upon all these nations to be, ready for the battle. All right. It says, Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I'm strong. And that's the point, that Iran is now saying that, look, hey, we're not backing down. We're standing on our grounds. All right. Whatever come, let it come, you know? And they beating the plowshares into swords, meaning what? Monies spent or was supposed to be spent or previously spent on agricultural needs and whatever. Hey, their priority is now shifted to pruning hooks and spears, Salakia, into spears and swords, you know? So they all things like, hey, we gotta be able to compete, all right, on the on another level and have nuclear weapons, you know? And they're saying that they're strong, all right? They're not backing down for no reason, all right? It says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, gather yourselves together round about. Thither come, thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. All right. And that's the Lord, pretty much gathering them, to the battle. All right. Um, Let me get this here, right? Isaiah 14 and yeah, Isaiah 14 and I read from verse 10. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou become as weak as we? Art thou become like us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and thy noise of the vials, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. All right, and this is, future tense. All right, um, where this is speaking as though it would have already happened, but its future is to come. All right, and America is in the process of what being brought down. You know, um, yeah, it says the pump. All right, and the word pump go back to a pride. You know, each one, um, 1, 3, 4, 7. All right, Ga'an, right? Exaltation, majesty, pride, majesty, exaltation, excellence of nations, of power, of Jordan, pride and arrogance. All right, and that's what America is about. It's telling the nations that, look, it's either you accept this or die is gonna be worse off for you. That's what it's saying. All right. So it says what? Thy pomp has brought thee to the grave, and the pride of America, the pride of the so-called white man, is going to be his downfall. You know? And the noise of thy veils, the worms spread under thee, and the worms cover thee, is death. All right, and destruction. All right. O art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? O art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nation? And that's the point. He that weakened the nations. All right. And there are many ways that he would have what? Weakened the nations. All right. And by the way, just to spell it out, the Lucifer here is referring to who? The so-called white man, the illuminated ones. All right. They that have, the knowledge and wisdom of this world. All right. They that have the rule over it. All right. And if falling from heaven is not talking about how the Christians would break it down. You know, it's not talking about that. It's talking about its rulership being brought down, you know? Now, to get back to the point, which did it weaken the nations? How is America, all right, or the so-called white man weakening the nations? Through its policies, all right, mandating that they should not be able to do this or that, all right, saying that hey, you shouldn't be able to hone nuclear weapon, you shouldn't be able to do this, you shouldn't be able to advance in certain technologies and whatnot, all right, and by war, you know, and by war, literally going into these nations and breaking the spirit, you know, all right, saying that hey, look, you shouldn't be able to have any weapons. We need for you to have a whole um agreement, all right, that you should sign your entire, you know, lineage over to say, look, we would not, for now and for future, produce anything that resembles a nuclear weapon. You know, that's the desire of the so-called white man. All right. It says 13, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the side of the north, you know? And that's what it's saying. That look, excuse me, I will ascend into heaven, and this is what they're doing with all this space, um space stations. All right, there's this the new Artemis 2, which allegedly, you know, was launched into space. I believe the rocket should be returning anytime soon. All right, excuse me. It's all about what being like the Most High, you know. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yeah, that's the point. You know, he wants to be like the Most High. All right, and that pride is what's gonna be his downfall. You know, um, Obadiah 1 and 3, I believe. Yeah, Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 1. I read from 1. It says, the vision of Obadiah, thus said Yahweh power concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from Yahweh, from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise and let us rise up against Ar in battle. All right. So all these nations as well is getting ready to bond together. All right, to destroy America. It says, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised, you know? And that's true. Hey, these nations hate America. All right. The truth about America is out there in the open. They know who she is. They see her for what she is, and that's as we just see over here, a big dirty stinking whore. All right. That's ultimately what America is. You know, like I was watching this video, and it was going into an American citizen rather was going into how if America was to use the same logic that they see with these other nations where they would go in and destroy the leaders to liberate the people, they would do the same thing to America because America has the greatest oppression upon its people. All right. It says, verse 3, the pride of thine heart that deceived thee, thou dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that it said in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? All right. The pride of his heart that deceived him, you know? He's saying that, look, I've been in rule for so long, all right? Virgin daughter of Babylon, I've been in rule for so long, and no one dare conquer me, you know? You know? And he's saying that, look, he's walking around with that pride right through. you know, putting heavy yokes upon the nation, upon the nations, you know, that anyone that dare uh, um um step to him, they're gonna feel his wrath. It says, who shall bring me down to the ground? And there's a rhetorical question he's asking in his pride, you know. But here what the Most High say, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, said the Lord. You know, so Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to bring him down. You know, though he exalt himself, though he puff himself up, hey, the Most High is getting ready to break his pride. You see, the Most High is getting ready to break his pride. You see, so again, hey, Iran is not backing down. All right, and the prophecies are looking really beautiful. You know, so with that, I want to give all praises honor and glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Akakodash, and double honors unto the elders and to the apostles of great Stone once again. Shalom.